Hey guys, and welcome to Petrol Ped, and welcome to Cycle Sunday. Although that doesn't feel right without my buddy Paul next to me, although I do have the Petrol Pup and the Petrol Pooch as co-presenters, although I don't think they're nearly as excited about this bike as I am. Now, the plans for this video changed a little bit. The idea was I was going to do my first ride of this bike up in Edinburgh just after we built it, but the build took a little bit longer than we planned, and all the other filming we were doing meant that we couldn't do that. So I've brought it home, and the plan is to go for a ride today. So in this video, I'm going to take you just for a bit of a walk through some of the beautiful details of this bike. I'm then going to don some Lycra and take it up to a lovely road not that far from Goodwood, and at the end of that I'm going to jump on a Zoom call with my buddy Paul to let him know how I've got on, because he is dying to find out. He keeps messaging me going, "Have you ridden it yet?" Well, today's the day. Today is the day I finally ride my Bianchi Oltre XR4. Okay, let's start this walk round at the front end at the cockpit and these stunning Vision Metron aero bars. It was maybe for me one of the most interesting bits of the build, watching Steve kind of route all of the hydraulic brake cables and all the power cables for the electronic shifters through this. But now it's finished, it's just so clean and it's pure aerodynamics. I mean, it just looks stunning, but it's a standout feature of the bike, that's for sure. The thing I'm going to be really interested to find out once I start riding this bike is, when we did the bike fit, one of the things we found out that was a standard off-the-shelf bar width was too wide for me. So these are slightly narrower, and that should just give me a more comfortable feel on the bike. And then the bit I'm quite nervous about, if I'm honest, is the whole setup from saddle to handlebar, the drop, the height of the bars, everything, because it's set now and it will be set according to the bike fit we did, but I'm sure it's going to be perfect. But there is still a little bit of nerves because it's very difficult to change, as if you've watched the first video, you'll know. If I just rotate the bars a little bit, excuse the Heath Robinson bike stand, hopefully Mrs. Petrol Ped's not going to watch this video. The couple of big differences, the hoods and the brake, the brakes and the gear changes are slightly different on Campagnolo to the Shimano systems I've been used to in the past. So I've got a little lever behind the brake lever here as a gear changer, and then little thumb switches here. Whereas on a Shimano system, you've got two little micro switches, both behind the brake lever. Now, you can have this set up, if you like, as a traditional road bike, where you change the front changer on the left hand and the rear changer on the right hand. What we've done is set up sequential mode, and what that basically means is I'm only really going to need this right hand changer, and that will change the gears, and basically if I'm going up through the gears, it will take me to the next ratio, the next appropriate ratio. And it may well be that sometimes I click this lever once and both the front and the rear changer move at the same time. I can't wait to experience that. I think that's going to be really, really cool. Little details at the end of this bar here. And again, when we did the bike build, we talked about all the cables coming in here, and the reason for that is this is the port where I plug in the charger, because it's electronic shifting, it needs power. The battery is actually mounted in the seat post, but the charger is really neatly integrated in here. Again, with my Shimano system, I've got a little box hanging underneath my stem. Here it's all integrated into the bars. I really like that. And then the other thing, we put the Garmin mount on here, so I've now got my Garmin head unit on there. The two purchases I have made, though, I've bought a Garmin cadence sensor, which is just a little module that's basically strapped to the left-hand non-drive side crank, and that will feed cadence information up to my head unit wirelessly. And then on the rear axle, again, another sensor, a speed sensor, again, which will link wirelessly to my Garmin. The one feature I haven't got with this Campagnolo system that I had with my Shimano system is with my Di2 Ultegra, I could link the actual gear system to my head unit and see what gear I was in. Campagnolo don't support that feature, unfortunately. And then the last thing to mention, it's not on the bike at the moment, but I've got a little rubber strip with 3 magnets in it that goes round here, because the batteries here And what that does is when you're not using the bike, you put that on, and it basically, the magnets are picked up by a sensor in the tube there, and it shuts off the power to the gears, so you don't drain the battery while the bike's not being used. Really cool feature. So that's a little bit about the front. Let's take a look at the gears and just talk through the ratios that Paul kept quiet because he wouldn't let me know what they were. So the big question is, has Paul been nice to me? Well, the answer to that is yes, he has. So this is actually effectively a 24-speed group set. So we've got 2 chain rings at the front and then a 12-speed cassette at the back. Now, this will probably mean more to the cycling buffs than anything else, but this is a compact chain ring. So it's a 50-tooth large ring, 34-tooth small ring, which is what I've got on my current bike. And then the rear cassette was the one I was a bit worried about, but because of the type of riding I do like climbing hills, so actually this is better than I've got currently. This is an 11 to 32 cassette, and it's 12 speed, so there's a range of cog sizes, if you like, from 11 all the way up to 32. But what that will mean is my very bottom gear, gear 1 if you like, will be actually an easier gear and better for me climbing steeper hills than I've currently got, because on my current bike it's an 11-speed cassette and it's an 11 to 28 tooth cassette. So this actually, I've got a bigger ring at the back which will make climbing much easier. It's not going to make my top speed anymore because it's still a 50-11 ratio. So I'm really chuffed with that. The detailing though of this Super Record EPS group set is just, every time I look at it I see something else that's beautiful. I mean, the main crank and chain ring on both sides, the carbon fibre work is beautiful, and the little jockey wheels on here, and all of this is all carbon fibre. You can see why it's the most expensive group set that you can buy. And I know we talked about the price, and it is a big number, but just to give you a very rough breakdown, and I'm going to use approximate numbers here, the frame and forks and handlebar, you're talking about £5,500. So you don't need to spec an Ultra XR4 up to the level that we have. These Campagnolo Bora WTO wheels, they're £1,000 each. And then the group set, that's the really pricey one. The group set's about £4,500, and that's where you get your 13 grand from. The last couple of things before we go out for a ride, because it's nearly time for me to don my Lycra, is we've set this up with tubeless, so it's got Michelin Power Road tyres, 28mm, and I've had a couple of people say, well, why did you get discs if you wanted weight, the lightest bike possible? Well, for a start, I didn't really want the lightest bike possible. As it happens, it's turned out just over 8 kilos. But the reason that I've gone discs, and actually this is one of the few frames you can buy where you can spec caliper brakes still, 2 main reasons, and they're really simple. Reason number 1 is I can run a 28mm tyre, which is going to give me a little bit of a nicer, smoother ride. And reason number 2 is if I had caliper brakes and these wheels, I'd be basically having my brake blocks slow me down on a £1,000 wheel, where at the moment I've got some nice consumable brake pads in there. So that's the reason why. And actually I think in terms of braking performance and so on, I think, you know, these brakes are absolutely stunning, and I can't wait to try them actually. Although I've got disc brakes on my Arcadex, I've not ridden a road bike with disc brakes before, so that's going to be really interesting. And that's about it really. So I have, what I'll need to do before I go out and do a main ride is just check that these are seated properly. I actually fitted these tyres way back in February. Paul's been rotating them and moving them in the shop. But what I'm going to do is just spin them around, make sure that the sealing fluid that's inside the tyre is nicely shaken up and mixed and spread around the tyre. And then what I'll probably do is just ride up the road for a few hundred metres, turn around, come back, check my pressures, do that again, check my pressures, and then off I go. I probably won't film that bit. So I reckon I go and get some Lycra on and take this bad boy out for a spin, finally, 10 months after we decided to build it. So I brought the bike out to a lovely hill just outside the back of the Goodwood Hotel. I've roped in my good friend Will from next door
to do a bit of tracking. I've never actually filmed on a bike before, so this is quite interesting. So I've done about 4.5 miles to get here. I did some basic checks when I first got on the bike just to make sure that the tubeless system was working and that the tyres were sealed properly, and that worked all well. Initial impressions so far, it feels wonderful. Handlebar width is absolutely spot on. I feel it quite a difference between this and my my Venge. And then the sequential gears. So I just clicked this one shifter there, and the front derailleur moved 1 cog, the rear derailleur moved 2 or 3, and that's quite something. Then, just in terms of the stiffness of the frame, you can feel it. It's stiff as. It transmits all the power through the bike into the road. Tell you what though, I need to get a bit more fitness. But the thing that's blown me away is actually when you freewheel, when you stop powering, when you just coast, this thing has no rolling resistance at all. And that's no surprise really. It's got ceramic bearings throughout, not just in the bottom bracket, but also in the wheels. This is a gnarly bit of hill, this. So I have to say it's currently 8 degrees of elevation. So apologies for being a wheezy old knacker. Saddle height, perfect. I wasn't worried about the saddle height. My big worry was my drop or position down onto the hoods. So if I just ride alongside the car, I was worried that it might be too much of a stretch or too much weight on my hands. Now I've only done 5 miles, so it's hard to comment really, but so far feels great, which is a good job because I can't raise the handlebars anymore because there's no more steerer tube, and the forks very, very expensive. Woo. Tell you what though, building up a sweat. Had to go with my Criterium Cycles kit. I have to say guys, top quality gear as well. So the next thing, shifting. Big differences I've noticed straight away is the controls are a bit different to what I'm used to. So on the hoods, I've got a lever just behind the main brake lever there to change down gears, or to a lighter gear rather, and then a little button just there that I use my thumb to go up the gears, heavier gear. Have I got that the right way around? Can't remember. But now just come up top of this hill. There's the sculpture part behind us. Some Goodwood cows. Lovely hill this. It's quite a nice steady 5 to 10%. So actually for training, I like this hill because you can just go up and down it a lot. So off the top of the hill, so that's a sequential shift. That was front derailleur and rear derailleur moving in one go. Start getting some speed on here now. Very easy up to 18 miles an hour. Oh man, this bike flies. Absolutely flies. It's 20 miles an hour, still 2% gradient, and there's my everyday pace. Nice. Oh. Well, I have to say, blown away. Steve, you're a legend. This bike feels so good to ride. Richard, Paul, awesome. Anyway, I'm gonna go and enjoy myself. See you later. I'll ring Paul in a minute. And this is the best bit. Going really fast.
Now then, how are you?
Really good. How are you?
I'm not bad, mate. I'm not bad. But I know we are on here to record the podcast.
Yes.
But breaking news. I've just ridden the bike.
Have you?
Yeah.
What do you reckon?
It's rubbish. Do you do refunds?
We do. Yeah. Take them all back.
Mate, honestly. I only did, I think, probably in total 11 or 12 miles. And
Okay.
most of that was because I was filming it. I had my mate Will next door kind of, helping me and stuff. But actually, you only have to ride it for about 500 meters and it just feels next level. It's incredible.
Yeah.
It really is incredible.
So you've ridden bikes and good quality bikes for a lot of years.
Yeah.
What would be if you're going to talk to somebody and say, look, I'm thinking about investing £13,000 into a new road bike, and I currently have £3,500–4,000 worth of road bike.
Yeah.
What is the one thing that would make you spend that money?
Oh, man. That's like asking a father which is his favourite child. I don't know whether there is one.
No.
There's so many.
Right.
The one thing that I didn't expect, let's start there actually, because you expect it looks amazing, right?
Yes.
And we stopped doing some filming and this guy came up and went, nice bike, mate. It looks incredible.
Yeah.
So it's a beautiful thing. And I think there's a good part of that's the worth of the bike is how beautiful it is.
Yeah.
The bit I didn't expect is when I rode up the road and there's a T-junction at the top of the road and I stopped pedaling and it felt like the bike speeded up. The freewheel and the coasting on it is just weird because it's got no rolling resistance at all.
Wow.
It just keeps going. And I know there's a combination of ceramic bearings everywhere, amazing quality wheels, really great tyres and a kind of whole tubeless setup, but it's just got no rolling resistance at all. And you just think, wow, if that's when I'm coasting, how much energy do I normally put into my bike to overcome that on a lesser bike, if that makes sense? It was amazing.
Yeah, completely.
Yeah.
And I think you have just encapsulated it. It was a bit of a trick question, and apologies for that. But it is one of those things that you've hit the nail on the head. It's not one component. It's every single element of that bike creates that experience. And I think only when somebody's ridden that level of bike, you're right in what was said before. Nobody needs this level of bike.
No.
But to how it makes you feel, not only when you're looking at it and cleaning it afterwards, and how it makes you feel whilst you're riding it, it's worth every penny.
Yeah, and I can't say this for sure, but my gut feel so I rode on roads that I ride all the time with a kind of power output, effort level that I would normally ride all the time.
Yes.
My gut feel says I think my average speed on that bike will be 2 miles an hour faster than my Venge.
Wow.
It just feels faster. And
yes.
and you look down, so you're cycling along and look down at my Garmin, and normally on a kind of, cruising along, I might, on my own, I'd be doing maybe 18 miles an hour, something like that.
Yeah.
and I looked down and I was doing just over 20.
Yes.
And then you get to a hill and, you know, it's just so stiff. But, the other thing, countervail, hello.
Yes. Yes.
That's weird. It feels like
Yes.
the bike's got suspension. There's no vibration comes up through the frame at all. And my Fenge is like riding one of those old bone shaker things. You know, it's
Yes.
properly just amazing. So yeah,
Yes.
loads and loads. So I will do more content with the bike, I'm sure. I just wanted to give you an update before we do the podcast. But wow, man,
That's brilliant. And you've also hit another point there as well, Peter, is everybody tune into the podcast.
yes,
Because what we're going to be talking about in the podcast is a lot of the comments that folk who watch the build video
yeah,
put, and we're not going to go through the comments of, wow, that bike looks amazing, that was worth the wait, and that sort of stuff. We all know that, and thanks so much for those comments. They were brilliant and so encouraging. So thank you for those.
yeah,
But the comments that we're going to be focusing on in the podcast are things that people have observed and gone, oh, for that amount, I would expect it to be lighter. For that amount, you would expect this, you would expect that. And that's what we're going to deep dive in the podcast, because what you've just said there just completely encapsulates that weight isn't everything.
yeah. No, exactly. So let's
Yes.
leave that for the podcast.
Yes.
But mate, that was awesome, and I hope, guys that are watching at home, I hope you enjoyed that first ride. It was quite challenging actually doing a first ride video, because I've never really filmed a riding on a bike video before. But I hope you enjoyed it. I'd love to know what you guys think of the bike and my little walk round and all the little details. I'm still finding details on it now, and I've had it at home, a couple of weeks nearly. It's just full of beautiful engineering. But
Yes.
anyway, for now, make sure you like, share, and subscribe to this one. There's more Cycle Sunday coming. So next week's Cycle Sunday, actually, I've forgotten what it is. Hold on a minute. I'll just have a quick look. What's coming up next week?
We're pros, you know.
Oh, it's Tracy's bike next week. So it's the nationwide delivery service dropping Tracy's bike off, and then we had a bit of a challenge with the bike in that she couldn't ride it, so we had to bring it back up to the shop to modify it. So that's all next week. So tune into that, because Mrs. Petrol Ped makes an appearance, and actually I think the pup do as well.
Brilliant.
Good. Anyway, guys, we shall see you on that one. Thank you for tuning into Cycle Sunday. As Paul said, make sure you head over to the podcast now. You can find the podcast either on YouTube, just search Cycle Sunday Podcast, or anywhere where you get your podcasts. It's on Apple, Spotify, Amazon, Google, all of them. Just search Cycle Sunday Podcast, and we shall see you there, because we're going to do that now, and we're going to deep dive. But for now, we'll see you on the next one. You take care, guys. Ride safe.
Ride safe, everyone.